Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, I guess, depending on where in the great world you're joining us from. Welcome to an introduction to PARiConnect. My name is Daniel McFadden. I am the Vice President of Customer Support for PAR. I've been with PAR for over 22 years. And one of my most important roles is to interact with our customers regarding the PARiConnect platform. So I do this webinar, which is designed to be an introductory webinar to show you sort of the basics of how to use the platform, how to assign assessments, how to score reports. And then we also do an advanced tips and tricks webinar, which is a little more focused on some of the lesser known settings and hidden features that people don't use quite as often. So if you enjoy this webinar, I would definitely encourage you to sign up for the tips and tricks webinar next month. So in case you don't know exactly what PARiConnect is, PARiConnect is PAR's online assessment platform. It allows you to assess clients, to get results, keep track of all of your data, all within one easy-to-use system. Unlike some of the other platforms and systems out there, PARiConnect does not require any specific or new hardware. We do not charge annual subscription fees. You don't have to purchase any special equipment. Essentially, as long as you have internet access and a modern current web browser, you can access PARiConnect and get access to all of your data. And what's really cool about that, of course, that means you can choose when, where, and how you get the results you need. So again, as long as you have access to the internet and a current web browser, you can access PARiConnect. Here's what we'll cover in the next hour or so. We'll talk a little bit about the account structure within PARiConnect. I'll show you some of the resources that we have available on our parinc.com website. We'll talk a little bit about how to log in and access the site. We'll go over inventory management, some of the options that you have there, as well as purchasing additional uses. And then we'll go through really the core of PARiConnect, which are the three options you have for generating reports. So you can do manual data entry, emailing administrations to your client, and then on-screen administrations in your office. And then we'll talk about how you can add favorite assessments, and then we'll save some time at the end for any questions that come in. Feel free to put questions into the chat now, but we will save all questions for the end. And hopefully we'll cover most of the things you're curious about, but you can go ahead and put those at any time. And if we don't cover that topic prior to getting to the Q&A section, we will certainly jump into those. So the way PARiConnect is structured, each account is going to have one person who is the account manager. That person does need to be someone who is qualified. So depending on which type of assessment you're planning to use, that differs. But that person does need to be someone who is qualified to, score and interpret the results of the assessments that you're planning to use. In the case of a private practitioner, that is going to be you. That's going to be the psychologist, the person who owns the practice. You can, of course, have an assistant. You can have other users on the account. And again, there's no yearly fee or there's no per user fee or anything like that with PARiConnect. Account manager would be the person who's in charge, and then you can invite assistants or other users to join the account. In the case of a larger organization, such as a school or a hospital, there's still going to be one person who is the account supervisor, the account manager. Typically, that person would be the supervisor of clinicians. They do still need to be someone who's qualified to interpret and understand the test results. That person would also be responsible for inviting any other clinicians that you want to join the account. And that person decides sort of what parts of PARiConnect each person has and does not have access to within the platform. Additionally, we do have a role that's totally optional that's called Enterprise Manager. This is largely designed for bigger organizations who maybe have a business need to have separate PARiConnect accounts, but maybe you need to be able to share inventory or move clinicians or clients from one account to another. The enterprise manager role sort of is an administrative role that sits on top of a PARiConnect account and then allows you to move stuff around within any accounts that person is over. Again, enterprise manager is completely optional. If you're in a private practice, you do not need this. And for most of you, you really don't need this. However, if you're with a larger organization and you have some need to have multiple different accounts, and you think that this might be a good fit for you guys, if you contact our customer support team, we can sort of verify that it is the right role for you or someone at the organization, and then walk through how to get that person set up. All right, so from here, we're going to jump over to live demo. So everything from this point is going to be the actual websites. So first thing I do want to mention, you'll notice that if you look at my address bar here, hopefully you can see it. Right now I'm on PARiNC.com. So PARiNC.com is our corporate website. This is where you would go if you're looking for supplemental resources, if you're looking to make a purchase, if you're even including if you want to order additional PARiConnect uses. I do want to point out that it is a different website from PARiConnect.com. And although we have, of course, have PARiConnect advertising and logos are all over the PARiNC website, it is different from PARiConnect.com, which is what you're going to see here. This is the login screen for PARiConnect. So this is what the site that you're going to use anytime you want to do assessments, you want to run a report or assign an assessment, you're going to go to this site. But while we're on PARiNC.com, I do want to point out there's a few useful solutions and resources that you may want to check out. So if you click on the Visit Our Solutions page, you can see we've got these linked here, right? So we have mental health solutions, school assessment resources. Both of those have all kinds of really cool little resources that you may find helpful. And this is one I want to mention. So we do have, over the last couple of years, with how the world has changed, we've created a number of remote administration, remote assessment options. Some of the ones that are listed here. Typically, for any of these that we have, there's usually a white paper that sort of describes the remote administration and exactly how to set it up and how to do it. Most of the time, you're going to be using a telehealth tool of your choice to do screen sharing. But in some cases, we do have customized administration booklets that are in a digital format that are designed for this remote assessment. So I wanted to mention that as a resource. Additionally, we have converted a large number of our paper and pencil stimulus books into e-stimulus books. Those can be used in a variety of ways to administer the same assessments in office, but you don't have the bulk of having to carry around a large assessment, stimulus book. Additionally, it's a lot easier to clean in between sessions. You can wipe down an iPad a little bit easier than you can a paper and pencil booklet. We have a large number of e-manuals, so almost everything that is published by PAR in a manual format is available in an e-manual format. Those can be downloaded to an iPad or a computer. They're also available directly within PARiConnect, which I'll briefly mention towards the end of the webinar. We have a large number of Spanish language assessments that are available, and we've continued to add to those, including to PARiConnect, which we'll touch towards the end as well. And then last thing I want to mention here is the training portal. If you're not familiar with it, PAR's training portal is free to use. There are product-specific courses that walk you through how to learn all about the assessment. There are recorded webinars from past events available in there. So definitely check that out. Again, everything in there is free to use. There's no cost for PAR's training portal. All right, so let's jump over to PARiConnect. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. And it's important to have your password correct when you go to log in, which I apparently did not. All right, so most of the time you're not going to see the screen I have on screen right now. This is if you have more than one PARiConnect account that you're linked to. Most of you, it's just going to go ahead and log you straight into the platform. Now, when you first land on PARiConnect, you're gonna have a couple of areas of focus. The main thing is going to be these two tabs in the middle: pending assessments and then completed assessments. Those are going to be where anything that you have assigned or anything that has been completed as far as an assessment is going to be listed. Pending assessments is going to contain anything that you have either started or assigned or sent to someone, but it hasn't been finished yet. So in the three examples that are available, there's manual data entry. So if you've started a manual entry from a paper and pencil form and you haven't finished it yet, be listed here in pending assessments. If you've emailed an assessment link to a client, but they either haven't started or have started but haven't finished, be listed here. And if you've created an in-person assessment, but it hasn't either been started or finished, it's going to be listed here as well. Completed assessments is going to be anything that is finished, whether or not you have yet to run a report for it. So anytime that you want to run a report for an assessment that you've given, you're going to go to the completed assessments tab. That's going to be the easiest way to find the report and generate it. Over on the right, we're going to show you recently added clients. We're going to show you the 10 most recently added clients here. We show you their name as well as the date that they were added. And then, of course, if you wanted to view all of your clients, you can click on View All Clients, which will take you to your full client roster. We show you your current inventory over here on the right, and you can actually see you can interact with your shopping cart here if you wanted to. And then, of course, if you're a new user to the platform, you probably don't have any clients yet. So if you wanted to add a new client, you can do that right here from the home screen. So let's actually go through that process to sort of get started. So let's click on Add New Client. Now, when you do that, there are going to be 3 fields that are required: first name, last name, and client ID. The client ID can be really anything that you want. It's a unique identifier for you to be able to recognize the client. The only limitation that is that it's just alphanumeric characters, so no punctuation or anything like that. Otherwise, it can be whatever makes sense to you. And then, of course, you do put in a first name. You don't have to put anything else in the fields. However, if you're doing a self-assessment where the person is taking the assessment in regards to themselves, and you're going to be doing it by email, it'll save you a little time to go ahead and put the email address in here. And then if you put in the birth date, it will calculate the age for you. So most assessments are going to require an age or a birth date. So I would go ahead and click on that and do that. And then we do have what are called groups within PARiConnect. Those are essentially folders or a way for you to organize your client roster. Totally optional. You don't have to do that. But if you wanted to, you could actually, when you're creating the client, put them into one of your existing groups directly from there. All right, so once you've got the data in here, you can either click on Add Client, which will put them in your client roster, or you can click on the Add and Assess button. If you do that, it's going to create the client file, and then it's going to take you to the Assign Assessment screen so that you can choose which assessment that you want this person to take. So in this case, I'm just going to click Add Client, and you can see that my recently added clients has been updated to include the one that we just did. So if I wanted to, I can click on that client's name here, and that will take me to this particular client's page, right? So this is their demographics. These are their pending and completed assessments only. And since this one is brand new, I don't have any yet. So from here, I can make changes. I can make edits to the demographic fields for this person if I needed to, or I can go ahead and just launch a new assessment. So if I wanted to go ahead and assign one, I could do that directly from the screen by clicking on the new assessment button. Let's jump back to the home screen. And let's talk a little about the way inventory works, because that's probably the other thing. So you're always going to have a button over here in the top right that will say View Inventory. Sometimes it'll be red and you'll have this inventory is low warning. That just means that you have one or more items that are below whatever threshold you've set for considered low inventory within the platform. If you have sufficient inventory for everything you own, then this box will just be gray. You won't see the red. But in any case, you can always click on View Inventory, and that will bring up a full accounting of all of your inventory items. So you can actually see that I have a very large number of assessments because this is a demo account. But it's real easy to see sort of what I have available. This is the APS. You can see that I've got 76 iAdmins and 63 score reports available here. So I can see all of my inventory for any items. Additionally, I can actually start the process of placing an order for additional items directly from this screen. So let's say I get down here and I realize that I'm getting a little bit low on the brief 2, let's say self reports, right? So I can look and see that I've got 157 admins, 104 interpretive reports, and then I've got 48 interventions handout reports. So maybe I wanted to order more of those. I can actually just click on the name of the assessment here, and it's going to ask me, are you wanting to add to cart? And if so, I just click add to cart, and then it'll ask me, do I want to go ahead and go check out now? Or do I have more work to do? Do I want to add more stuff to my cart? Do I want to continue assigning an assessment and then maybe finish the purchase later? So if I want, I can just click on Stay on PARiConnect. And then whenever I'm ready, I can just click on the View Shopping Cart icon here, which will take me to PARinc.com. It will sign me in on PARinc.com. And then all I have to do is complete my purchase. I put in my credit card information and finish the purchase. As soon as you do a purchase on PARinc.com, PARiConnect inventory is going to be loaded to your account pretty much immediately. As soon as I've finished the purchase, all I have to do is just do something to refresh the screen here. So click on any of the links on the screen, and that will update my inventory. So purchasing is super easy to do within PARiConnect. Also, if you ever just prefer talking to human beings, we answer every call live at PAR, and as soon as you finish an order with any of our customer support specialists, that we add that inventory at the same time. So there's no, you're not having to wait days or anything like that for your inventory to get updated, regardless of how you purchase. As soon as the order is complete, you're going to have access to it. All right, so that's your inventory over here. We've talked about recently added clients. We've talked about how to add a new client. Let's talk about the options for assigning assessment. So there's a couple ways that I could do that. One is that I could, as I showed you earlier, I could go to a particular client and then click on the new assessment button. That will take me to the assign assessment screen. This screen is going to be where you say, I would like these clients to take this assessment. So I can actually select multiple clients. So if I was going to give, say, 10 people the same assessment, I could go through and select all 10 of those clients here, and then just choose the assessment I want from the right-hand part of the screen. So to select clients, you can either browse, so you can see I can scroll up and down, and if I want to add someone, I just click on their name or on the little icon here, and we'll add them to the middle part where you can see I've now got 2 clients selected to be given an assessment. Additionally, I can do a search, so you can also just start typing, and this is actually like an immediate search. So if I start typing in, it's going to start narrowing down the results to match whatever I've typed in. So I can say, oh, there's the one I'm looking for, and just quickly and easily add them to my selected client group here. Now, to determine which assessment to give them, you can either scroll up and down, or you can always just do a search, and you're going to search by acronym, so not the full name. So for example, if you wanted to give someone the the PAI, you would search for PAI, and you can see that it's narrowed down all of my results here. I've got standard form Spanish version, and then the PAI-A, which is the adolescent version of the PAI. So whenever I've found the assessment I want, I can either drag it over, or I can just click on it, and it will put it in the selected assessment box. It is worth noting that you can only do one assessment at a time, but you can select up to 25 clients to be assigned that assessment. So once you have your client selected here and the assessment selected here, you're going to click on the next step button at the bottom. If you're not seeing next step, there is a cookies banner that's come up that we're saying, hey, we've updated your cookies and here are your options. You may just need to accept or clear those before you'll be able to see the next step button. So you can see once you've chosen next step, we're going to give you 3 options. You can administer an assessment by email, you can administer it on-site, or you can enter from paper. So let's start with the most basic form here. Let's choose enter from paper. So you would choose this option if you have a paper and pencil booklet and you've already administered the assessment, and now you just want to use PARiConnect to score it and create a report. In that instance, you only need to purchase the number of reports that you want. So if you're going to be doing paper and pencil administration always, you would purchase the test booklets that you need, and then you would just purchase the reports for the assessment that you want to score. That is a little bit different from how some of the other assessment platforms out there work, where you purchase a usage, and then the usage can be used for administration or reporting. We let you choose, so we're not just making you pay up front for everything when maybe you purchase paper and pencil forms, or you already own paper and pencil forms and you're just now converting to use PARiConnect for scoring. So that's why we sell iAdmins separately from reports. We want to give you the option. If you're going to use paper and pencil forms, you only purchase the reports. If you're going to do either email or on-screen administrations, in that case, you would purchase both the iAdmin and the report for the assessment that you want. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I've chosen manual entry, and this screen comes up, which is going to show me the clients that I selected and their demographics that are required for this assessment. So this may change. The fields listed here will change depending on which assessment you've chosen, because some assessments only ask for date of birth, others ask for gender, grade, that kind of thing. So I can just go ahead and click next if all of the demographics that are required are correct. Or there are typically going to be additional optional demographics that I can choose to enter depending on the assessment. And if I wanted to do those, I can click on this little more icon here, and that will open up an expanded view of this particular client. so that you can see I'm able to enter things like marital status, education, and you can see that I'm on one of the 3 clients. So if I hit save and next, it's going to take me to the second of the 3 clients that I selected. And again, I can enter additional demographics here and go to the 3rd one. And then when I'm ready, I can hit save and return, which will take me back to this table format. And whenever I've got everything correct here, I'm going to click on the next step button. Now, let's say I get to the screen and I realize that I don't have some of the information I needed for one of the clients. If I wanted to remove them, I can click on the little checkbox here and click Remove Clients. And you can see now that I've just got the 2 clients that I chose, and I can go ahead and click on Next Step. Now, since this was manual data entry and I chose more than one client, it just went ahead and put those both in my Pending Assessments tab. So what's cool about this is, let's say I've got 3 people coming in tomorrow. I could go through and assign all 3 of these at once, and then when I'm ready to do the administration, I just come in here and select that one, and I can go ahead and start keying in the responses. So to do that, I just click on the manual entry button, and you can see that it's laid out the responses for me. And I can go ahead and I can either use the mouse if I was on an iPad, I would just tap. Or it actually sort of highlights for you, almost like a magnifying glass, the item that you're on, so that especially if you're on an iPad, you can more easily hit the response buttons. I do want to point out, you see the numbers down here at the bottom, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I'm on a keyboard, I can hit 0, 1, 2, and this is going to be the fastest way to do manual entry for just about everybody. So you can go through and key in the responses this way. Of course, I recommend not Christmas treeing it. I would probably pay attention if I were you. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to key all these in. And then when I get to the end, or let's just say I've started keying in some responses and something comes up. Maybe the fire alarm goes off, or somebody shows up with pizza. I've got to prioritize my life. So I'm going to go ahead and pause what I'm doing at that point, and I can pick it up later. So with that option, you can just hit Save for Draft. And if you do that, it's going to put it back in Pending Assessments, and it's going to save whatever progress you've made, so that when you're ready, just come back in here, click on Manual Entry again, and whatever you've keyed in will be available for you here. So we do offer 2 verification options for data. So you can either verify in 2 methods. The first one is going to be that you can sort of double enter all of the item responses again, and if there's any discrepancies, the platform will let you know and give you an opportunity to correct it. Or I can choose the automatic method, which will read the responses to me out loud, and then I sort of compare that to my paper and pencil form and make sure that everything matches up and is correct. So once you've done that, or if you're just very, very confident that you're very good at data entry, you can click on the Submit for Report button. I do want to pause for a moment here and sort of give you a little warning. When you hit Submit for Report, this data set is now locked. I can no longer go back and make changes to the data, the item responses themselves. So if you're ever going to do data verification, do it before you hit the Submit for Report button. Because once I select this button, I can't go back and change this data set. All right, so when I do that, it's going to say, okay, great. Here are the demographics that you listed. Here are the item responses that were entered. And then what do you want to do? I want to use this protocol to generate a report. And you can see that I've got some different options available. This particular assessment, there's a variety of different reports that are available. So you can select the report you want and then click Generate. And that will pull up the report on screen for you. So I'm not going to do it on this one. We'll do that on the next option, but I just wanted you guys to see sort of how manual data entry works. All right, so let's go back to the home screen. And then in this case, let's make a new client. And I'm going to go ahead and choose Add and Assess this time. When I do that, it's going to take me to the Assign Assessment screen, and it's already populated my client's name in here. And so all I have to do now is find the assessment that I want to give them. And I will also caution you here, so we have screening forms for the Brief 2 parent teacher. So, if you search for brief, make sure that you're selecting, the right assessment that you want to do. In this case, I do want to do the screening, but that's a 12-item assessment. So if you're looking for the normal brief, that is just going to be called Brief 2 parent teacher or Brief 2 self. All right, so I'm going to click on the one I want here, Click next step. And this time I'm going to choose email invitation. And you'll notice that that adds the field for email address here. So of course, if I'm emailing the client the link, I do need to put their email address in here. Otherwise, this works the same way, right? So I've got my required demographic fields here, and if I try to continue without selecting something, it will stop me. That's not going to work. Now I can also do the sort of the drill down to see the additional demographics and enter the optional ones if I want to here. And then when you're ready, hit save and return, and then click next step. And then this time we're going to ask you, what do you want this email to do, and what do you want it to look like? So if you're a new user, it's going to be blank everywhere, but we do have the ability for you to save templates. So if I was a new user, I would fill out a subject. So what is the subject of the email? And you'll notice that there's a little tooltip here. We definitely recommend making sure that you use a subject that the client is going to be likely to recognize and see that it's not spam, right? These emails do come from an @PARinc.com address. They don't come from your personal email address or your clinician email address. So they do come from PARinc.com. So I would recommend doing something like this: from Dr. McFadden, brief to assessment we discussed, just something to help the person recognize that this is the thing that they're waiting for. You can put whatever you want in the body of the email, but I would usually recommend including things like, here's the assessment we talked about. If you have issues, call my office at such and such, these hours, whatever information you want that person to have. And then we give you some options here. So do you want to include an expiration date for this assessment link? By default, when you email an assessment, they don't expire. They're good until the person takes the assessment or you cancel it. However, if you only want them to take it if they do so in the next week, I can choose to set an expiration and say, you have to do this in the next 7 days. Otherwise, it invalidates the link and they can no longer take it. So if you're choosing to set an expiration, I would typically want to include that in the email. So you just check that box here. Do you want the name of the assessment to be included in the email and on screen when they're taking the assessment? If so, check the product box button here. And then assessment time is going to tell them about how long this assessment normally takes for someone to take. So I think this is definitely a good idea if you're assigning a 45-minute assessment. You don't want someone to start trying to take that while they're on their lunch break, so I would usually include that. And then we do give you two options that are for your convenience. The notify when done checkbox is going to send you an email once the person has completed the assessment, and it has a link you can click on and sign right in and go straight to that assessment so that you can quickly and easily score it and generate the report. And then you can also have the system send you a copy of the email that you're sending to the client. So this is really cool if you have an issue where maybe a client says that they didn't get something or they're having issues with their email or spam, something like that. So you can have it send a copy to you as well. And what's cool about that, you could then sort of forward take the link itself and forward it to the person if you needed to. I do want to highlight here, though, this in parentheses here, it says 1 email per assessment assigned. So if you're assigning a batch of clients, so if you're doing this for 10 or 15 clients at one time, you are going to get that many emails. You're going to get 10 or 15 emails because it's sending you 1 per assessment. And then lastly, once you have entered your text and chose the options that make sense to you, you can save this to use it as a template for the next time you come back. And so you can just give it a name that you want it to have here, and when you click send, it will save that template so that next time, all you have to do to sort of choose the same language and the same settings is come into this template box, choose the template that you want, and it will populate all of that data for you. All right, so when you click send, that's going to go ahead and send that email to the client. So now if I go back to my home screen, you can see that I've got a new pending assessment, and you can see that it's the brief to screening parent form, updated to date, and the status is that it's in email, but it has not been started. So I can always see the status of what's going on with an assessment sent that way. All right, let's go back to the assign assess screen, and I'm going to go directly there this time. So you'll notice that there's nothing in the selected clients box yet, so I have to either search for them or select them from my roster here. So I'm going to choose the one I want, and I'm going to choose the assessment again. Click Next Step, and this time I'm going to choose Administer On-Site. Again, you're going to go through the demographics fields. And of course, it does verify that the demographics you've chosen match up with the assessment. So if the brief 2 is for ages 5 to 18 and I've tried to assign it to a 24-year-old, it's not going to let me do that. So I do have to make sure that I've got it correct. Now, if you're doing just one on-site assessment, we're going to ask you, do you want to launch this assessment right now? In other words, is that client in your office and ready to start taking the assessment? Or are they coming in tomorrow and you're just trying to sort of get ahead of the game? So if I choose later, it'll just put it in my pending assessments, and then whenever I'm ready, I'll just click the administer button and it'll start the assessment. If I want to start it now, it's actually going to go ahead and just launch it and say, okay, great, here's the demographics, make sure that everything is correct. They can make changes here. In this case, this is, I think, a teacher form, so this is going to asking the teacher what their name is. And they would actually just go through, and you can see they respond directly using either tapping on a tablet, or they can use a mouse. They can use the number buttons, so 1, 2, and 3. I can use 1, 2 to go through the assessment. The instructions are shown up here at the top of the screen. They can, of course, hide that or open it if it's distracting to them. And then when they get towards the end here, we show you progress. So you're on question 12 of 12. And then when you get finished, it goes great. Click Finish to submit the responses. And it lets you know that the testing was complete, responses were saved. If I had chosen, well, this was an on-screen one, so I wouldn't get a notification. But if I go back in now, this is going to be listed in my completed assessments screen. So I'm going to sign back in. Now, you may be wondering, why do I have to sign back in? I just did an on-screen assessment using my computer. Once you start that, we sort of log you out of the system, because the last thing we would want is for your client to just be able to type in PARiConnect.com and start browsing through your other client files. So we force you to log back in after you start an on-screen administration. Now, if I go to completed assessments, the on-site one that we just did is listed right here. So if I'm ready to, all I have to do to score this and create a report is click on the Run Report button. That will again come up, show me the demographics, and I can make changes to the demographics if I see an error here. It will show you the responses. It will show you the item response set. Now, one thing that's really cool, if you're doing the assessment either on screen or by email, we'll actually track how long it took the person to take the assessment and how that compares to sort of an average time. So you can see in this case, it was completed in 1 minute, which is 20% of the average completion time of 5 minutes. So, if you see something that's just way out of whack there, you may want to follow up with the client and ask if they took it seriously. You can look at the data set and see if they just put all trues or whatever. So you have a chance to review it here. And then when you're ready, you're just going to select the report that you want to generate. And it lets you know that it's going to deduct 1 report usage from your inventory to do so. And then we're going to ask you, do you want this in a Word type of format, or do you want a PDF version? You can do both if you want, but just choose whichever option you want. And for instance, if you choose PDF on Google Chrome, it's going to open a new tab and pull up the report right there. So from here, I can scroll up and down. I can view this report. I could right-click on it. I could save it. I can print it. I can save it to my own Google Drive or whatever, however it is that I store my reports. So I can do all of that right there from the screen. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to the home screen. We've talked about how to assign assessments in the 3 different modes. Talked about inventory, adding new clients, using both the pending and completed assessment screen. I do want to mention a couple of features down here under quick links. So there's 2 things here. There's an interactive bell curve. This is a free resource that allows you to enter assessment results, and it just shows you how that person's scores do compared to a normal distribution, right? So you could use this as a way to explain assessment results to someone. And then this is a free tool, so you can just access it from the quick link section. Additionally, we have the digital library. So if you have purchased any e-manuals from PAR, they will automatically be available here in your digital library. And to open those, you literally just click on it, and it will open up that particular thing. You can scroll, you can zoom in and out. You can scroll up and down, but really where this is powerful is the search function, which is up here in the top left. So if I were to search for normative, it's going to find every instance of that, and I can click on that one over here, and it will take me directly to that section of the manual, to that page, so that I can view it. Again, this is available for free as long as you've purchased the e-manual from us. It'll be available here in your digital library, and there's nothing else that you have to do to sort of access to that. All right, so let's go back to the home screen again. We've gone through how to assign assessments. We've mentioned your client roster, so you can always go see your full roster of clients by clicking on the clients button here at the top. And this is cool. I can do a search by any of the fields listed here. So if I knew I was looking for a particular, maybe someone who was assigned to a different group or a different clinician, I can do a search, and you can see that it's going to only bring up the ones that have that search term in it. And then, of course, if I wanted to interact with that client, I can click on their name, and it will take me to that same client page that we were looking at earlier. Now, there is a button at the top called Reports. This is where you would go if you just wanted to quickly rerun a report you've already generated. So this is not where you go to create a report for the first time for an assessment. This is where you go if you've run one in the past and for whatever reason you just want to rerun it real quickly. This is cool. You can just find it and then click on the View Report button. You can sort using these fields at the top. There's also a little magnifying glass icon where you can do a search that combines any of the data that you put in. So if I put in, client ID and test, it'll start narrowing down the results. And then I can say, well, I'm only looking for the Brief A interpretive report. Aha, here's the one I was looking for. All I have to do is click on View Report, and it's going to just pull that one up for me. Now, if you are the account manager for your organization and you want to invite other users to join the account, you can click on the Clinicians button here at the top, and then click on the Add Clinician button. That will ask you for their first name, last name, email address, and what their role is. So I can put in information here and put in some emails. And then there's two options for a role. There's a clinician/psychologist or research/office assistant. So pick the one that most closely matches the person you're inviting. And then you have complete control to determine what they do and do not have access to within the platform. And you can do that right here just by selecting those options. When I click add here, it's going to send that person an invitation saying, so-and-so has invited you to join the account. They click the link. If they don't already have a password, they would set a password. And then from that point forward, they access PARiConnect using their own email address and password. So we don't really encourage sharing logins because you don't really have a really good reason to need to do so. Again, we don't charge per user fees or anything like that. So that's how to invite other users to join your account. One thing I did want to cover, I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, was how to create favorites, how to set up favorite assessments. So if I were to click on the Assess button, let's see, there we go. And it takes me to the Assign Assessment screen. You notice the little star icon next to some of these assessments. If I was a brand new user, it would actually look like this. It would show me all of the assessments that are available. So all I have to do to make something a favorite, and I highly recommend doing this so that you don't have to search each time, you're not mistakenly selecting the wrong version of an assessment or wrong form, because a lot of the assessments we sell, there's both a long form and a short form or a screening form. In some cases, we've created Spanish forms that are available. So find the ones that you're going to use, and then click on the little star icon next to it. And what that will do is that will favorite that assessment. And then the next time I sign into PARiConnect, it is going to log me in, and it's going to just take me to show me my favorites only. So, you can always sort of save yourself some time by doing that. The cool thing is, let's say you just bought a new assessment that you've never used before and you haven't favored it yet. You can come in here and just do a search. It's gonna show you search results regardless of whether you favorited that assessment or not. So you can search for it and then favorite it if you're going to be using it moving forward. All right, I think that's everything I want to cover. Let me jump back over to the PowerPoint real quick. So I promise this is only the sort of salesy stuff that we have as part of this presentation. Why PARiConnect? there's a lot of potential savings. Again, there's no setup fee, no annual fee for using the platform. And in many ways, it's a very cost-effective way to try out new assessments in particular. Back in the old days, you had to purchase, desktop software, and it might cost, a couple $1,000s, even if you only wanted to use it 5 times. With PARiConnect, you can purchase any quantity that you want, so long as it's 5 or more. So there's a minimum purchase of 5. Other than that, you can purchase, very exact quantities. If you're testing 24 people, you can buy 24 reports. Again, when you place an order, it's added to your account pretty much immediately, so there's no long delays or anything like that. And then from a security and reliability standpoint, we understand how important that is. PARiConnect was designed from the ground up to be HIPAA compliant. It is first and foremost the most important thing when we're working on updating the platform or creating it. And then, of course, that's all well and good, but if you can't access it when you need to, it doesn't matter, right? So reliability is huge important. We have a more than 99.9% availability since 2016, so we've worked very hard to make sure that this is always there when you need it. And then you think about the time savings you can get from this new method of using assessments, right? So the old days, maybe you would put a teacher form in an interoffice envelope and ask a teacher to fill it out, and then 2 weeks would go by and you'd check in with them and they'd say they never got it. Well, that form is gone, right? With PARiConnect, you could send that teacher an email. You could set an expiration date on it if you want, or you can, not set an expiration date, and then if a week has passed and you still haven't heard anything, you can send them a reminder directly from the platform. Or if they leave the organization, or maybe the client is no longer, needs to be assessed for whatever reason, you can cancel that assessment, and that will put that iAdmin use right back into your inventory. So you're never losing inventory that you didn't end up using. And then, of course, we've worked really hard to add a number of assessment tools to PARiConnect. There's no more than 80 different products, 75 different forms, and 120 different reports that are available. So we've worked really hard to give you whatever field or area that you work in, or whatever it is you're looking to measure. Hopefully we've got something on the platform for you. We do have some new assessments that are available. So we just released both the NAB, which is the Neuropsychological Assessment Battery, and the FAW Interpretive Report. Both of those are incredible assessments. The interpretive report for the FAW, if you've used that, if you work with kids and you're looking to assess their writing abilities, doesn't just tell you what level they write at. It tells you why they're struggling in certain areas, and it gives you tailored recommendations on how to work with them on those things. Here are 5 assessments that we've recently added to the platform. So some of these are scoring or reporting only. Some of them allow for administration, but all of these are great assessments now available. The Iowa Gambling Task is a really unique assessment for ages 8 to 79. It evaluates decision making and can actually be done through the platform. Very, very cool assessment. And then, as I mentioned earlier at the very beginning, we've worked really hard to add additional Spanish language assessments. So there's 5 assessments listed on here that we actually have a Spanish administration available through the platform. So all of the instructions, the items themselves are in Spanish. They are separate inventory, so if you're wanting to do one of those, you would go purchase some of those. The reports themselves are still in English, so it's not like you have to know Spanish really well to be able to interpret the results. All right, so I think we made good time. We've covered quite a bit in the last 45 minutes. My colleague, one of our amazing customer support specialists, Grace, should be on here with us. Are you there, Grace?
I am. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's Thursday, and tomorrow's Friday. That's what Thursday means, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Woo.
So, do we have any questions out there right now?
We actually have not gotten any questions yet, but it's definitely open till the end of the webinar if anybody wants to throw in a question now.
Absolutely. I like to think that when there's no questions, that means we did such a thorough job covering everything that that everyone's just amazed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But if anybody does have questions, as Grace said, we'll hang out for a few minutes and answer any questions that people might have. If you don't already have a PARiConnect account, or you think of a question after the webinar, my email address is on screen right now, so you feel free to send me questions later. But if you don't have an account and you think, okay, this is a good fit for me, Our phone number's on screen right there. If you call between 8 and 6:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, you'll get a live person. At PAR, we don't have menu prompts for you to navigate. We don't have receptionists. You get a real, very nice, very knowledgeable person who knows all about PARiConnect and will be happy to set up an account for you, to walk through any of the functions, or if you're getting a little frustrated, you're not figuring out how to do something, don't be frustrated. Call our team, and we'll be happy to walk you through anything that you need help with on the PARiConnect platform. All right, so we will hang around for another 2 or 3 more minutes, and if questions come in, we'll get those answered. If not, or if you need to run, because we certainly understand everybody's very busy, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. Again, this is the first of 2 webinars that we do related to PARiConnect. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty and you want to know about all the little settings and things that I didn't cover in this one, feel free to register for the Tips and Tricks webinar next month. But again, if you have to run, thank you so much for joining us. We really value your time, and we hope that this was a helpful webinar.